Hi everyone, welcome to Task. Tonight we have two of our own brothers speaking to us and tell us a little bit about their story. Our first one tonight is Jason. So we can give him a round of applause.
Hi guys, I'm Jason. Um, my story, growing up, I had two other sisters. I'm the oldest of three. Grew up with a lower class family. Like I had to work for everything growing up. Getting my car, had to earn that money to go get that car. So that's drilled into me at a young age. Um, I've always been a follower growing up. Like that's, I'd do anything just to get anyone to like me. And we fast forward, we all end up nowhere ended me up in a 2 year school academy for men who suck at life. So just I've made bad decision after bad decision and never taken ownership of it. I've always played the victim and just never looking down and finding out that I had a part in that growing up. And just loss after loss, just lots of craziness going around. I had a strong work ethic, in my teens and my early 20s, and then that's when the drugs started coming in. And I don't need to go into detail on that. We all know where that leads and all kinds of stuff that happened. But the after all those bad experiences, I've been super shy growing up. Like I never knew what it was like to actually have real friends. Like all my friends would just use me for everything I had because I was that kind of guy that gave you the shirt off my back if you asked for it. And now, I'm actually, happy now that I actually have, 60, actual true friends that I can call on any one of you guys at any time, and you guys will be there to help me with anything. And I know that, and it's actually, it's a great feeling to know that I actually have, friends and actually family. Um, you know, one of my biggest dreams is to actually go to college, and I'm on that route right now to actually, with the SCM class, and it's something that's super like it it interests me a lot. And today on the moves, it broke me off. I'm super sore and tired, and just happy to be back there with the different enterprises, and just getting back and just getting on to trying to get my life back together. Um, one thing that Red Barn has taught me is to look at the like when I'm getting pulled up, to look at look at the other side of it. Look, take some from that pull up, and so I can actually make the change. Then when the feedback comes, I need to actually focus more on the feedback, and that's one thing that I've struggled with this my whole entire stay here, and that's about it. Any questions?
What was your biggest obstacle you could say at Red Barn that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
My biggest obstacle was would have to be just my ego always getting me in trouble. Like, for the longest time, like I always thought I was right, and that everyone else is wrong. That you know I just wasn't looking at the other side of the other coin. I was only seeing what I could see.
So you touched on you being very shy. So is that something that you overcame, or are you still struggling with it?
They're both like it all depends. Like since I'm comfortable with every one of you guys, so I'm not shy around you guys. But when I get around people that that's new, like I'm super shy. Like I don't really like to talk until I get comfortable. Corey?
Would you kind of touch on your different phases in the program and like what you went through, how you got through them, the goods, the bads, like share a little bit with those.
Yeah, my intern phase, probably my hardest phase because you know always constantly stepping in it, like over little things, pushing back. Even the butt crack incident. Make sure that's not coming back out there. just not being okay with, not being okay with things. And, I finally didn't leave the farm for like 2 months until I decided to, had a conversation with W, and he said, just be happy and just, it will come. And right after that, I flipped the switch, and next thing you know, I was, started going on moves. My freshman phase, still I stepped in it quite regularly, but I'm starting to realize it a little bit. Like, I was catching some of the things that would keep getting me caught up. Like pushing back kind of died down, but other behaviors started coming back out, like either being sneaky or lying, that kind of nature. Those started coming out. So that's what my freshman phase. My resident phase, the first half of it was me stepping in it, like just not as bad, but it's kind of started to, started getting that pink cloud kind of thing. Like either I was either acting right, or I don't know what it was, but I was just happy and, just saying okay. And I kind of like snapped out of it and started going to the gym, a lot more, started going running, with the 5K, those kind of things. And, I started to feel good about myself, started losing weight. And then once I got my senior resident phase, I got super comfortable. Like first 2 months, it was easy, and then I stepped in it royally by, just making stupid comments. My mouth is what always gets me into trouble every single time. After being dropped back down to an intern, I realized that I need to be a better example, and I'm still to this day working on trying to be the best example I can be, and that's about all my phases so far. Ethan.
Okay, so what was initially your why? Excuse me, why you wanted to come to that? And then your why you wanted to stay through all those hard times and hard games. And then lastly, the third part is what was your why to committing to a third year?
The first one is what was my why before I got here? The reason why I wanted to get here is I just got tired of ending up, in the other place, like time after time again. And, I just got tired of it. Like I got tired of the so-called friends, which are more like accomplices. I got tired of them I just got tired of all those old accomplices or old relationships in my life. When I got to Red Barn, my why changed. It changed to be more about myself and be a better example to be a better man for my family. And the reason why for my third year for my why is I still have a lot to learn, and I also want to be the better example for people like Evan and Lewis that I gotten really close with, and I just want to be there for them. Copy.
What's the three pieces of advice that you got here from anyone of the leaders? One of the best ones that you got here.
Maybe Corey, and just asking, like when getting super frustrated in the back of the truck, just go ask for help, or just talk to your leaders. They can help you, like when you get super frustrated, just talk. John?
What would you say the biggest changes that you've noticed in yourself since you got here?
There's quite a few changes, like it's kind of weird. Like every time I go to the restroom and I find myself looking in the mirror, like at my smile. And it's like super weird because I don't know how to smile anymore. It's just super weird. It's just weird. Like it's like some of the weirdest smiles like come out. Like it's just like, wow, am I really doing this right now? The next part is when I finally did the 5K, like for the longest time, like I always thought I had like asthma or like overweight. It was just me just being lazy for the longest time. And then finally I just got up on that treadmill and started going, put one foot in front of the other. Next thing you know, I was actually doing the 5K with Mario, and it was a good feeling. Mario?
If you can give some advice to these younger guys in the program, how you got through some of the hard times, what would be that advice, man?
How I got through some of my hard times is just making it to my pillow, finding those leaders that finding like one of my biggest go-tos is Chris W. Like we came through this whole program together. I go to him through everything for everything. I go to people like Corey on the moves. Like he's taught me a lot. And Mario, you've been there for me as well. Like, you know, you guys are my go-tos. Iseli, you know, all you guys have been there for me. Like when I've been going through it, and I just need someone to talk to. So if you're going through it, don't get out of your head. Make it about someone else. You know, if you're frustrated in the back of your truck, you know, just put all that frustration into getting the job done and making your brother's day easier. That's how I handle the frustration.
What's the biggest life lesson that you've since coming?
Just be okay with some things. You know, things are out of your, you know, some things are out of your control, and just be okay with it, and just learn the lesson from whatever's happening, and just move on.
What's your best moment or day at Red Barn?
Best moment or day. It gotta be like when I got my teeth, you know, just have that super smile. Everyone like coming to like, you know, complimenting me on my smile. And the other one is when I completed that 5K. That was like one of the best feelings I've ever had, because it's something that like I never thought I would ever be able to do that.
Thank you, Jason. It's good to get to know you a little bit better and hear your story. Our next brother is Iseli, man. He's a great crew lead out on the moves. He's taught me a lot of the things I know on the moves. Iseli. So if we can just give him a warm welcome.
So family, I'm Iseli. Wowzers. I've been dreading this day for a long time, bro. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, you know, because this is probably like the most frightening thing for me, is to be able to stand up in front of a lot of guys, which is crazy, is because of the different settings, right? Like I can do it all day out on the move. I can sit there and talk to customers and let them know our story and things of that sort. But then it's when I get to speak in front of my brothers, the guys who I know who will make fun of me or love me, regardless or whatever. But anyways, a little bit about myself. I was born in 1979, long time ago, in American Samoa. A little bit after that, so basically, so from there, my dad took me. So my mom and my dad, they were out there on a church mission. My dad was a minister of the church. So basically, after I was born, he took me to Long Beach, California. And he told my mom that he would get a job, get going in life, and then send a ticket for her so she can come down and move with us. Little did we know, he ended up getting married again. A little bit about my dad. My dad, like I said, he was a minister of the church, but basically, when he had my mom pregnant, he had 2 other women pregnant at the same time. So there's three of us that are the same age, just different month. And then after that, so there's a total of 7 boys from my real dad. Anyways, a little after that, my mom ended up working and getting enough money to come and get me, right? So she came down to California and she got me. And she took off from California and then we moved down to Texas. That's where I was raised. My childhood was it was an up and down, you know. A lot of times I remember being alone by myself. My mom worked, what she did was she cleaned a lot of hotels, stuff like that. So a lot of times she was very she didn't like to ask people for help. She didn't like to ask like my uncles and my aunts, the few people that we had family out in Texas, for help. So a lot of times she would either leave me at home by myself, and I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I remember I would sit there and watch some TV, and she would sit there and say, hey, I'm gonna go to work or whatever, you know, and I would just sit there and watch the show. And then after that, by the time my show was over, I realized my mom was gone. And then I would sit there and I remember I would cry and I would walk back and forth. Walk up and down the neighborhood, just crying a lot. So anyways, fast forward a little time from there, my mom struggled. She struggled a lot. So like my aunt, uncle came over one time and my mom asked them to watch me one time. So I went and stayed with them. From then on, after I stayed with them, after they babysitted me for a little bit, I basically never wanted to go back home because the simple fact is I enjoyed having a family. I so they had a little son, which is my cousin, who so my aunt, uncle are actually the people who raised me. Those are the people that I call my mom and my dad. They raised me since, since I was like 5 all the way up, basically all the way up for, till now. And so like my dad was absent, right? So like a little bit about that. I held a lot of resentment from my dad. I always told myself I wouldn't be the type of dad that he was to me. So like I did a lot of things. I went through life, of course, just with a chip on my shoulder. We lived in poverty with my aunt and uncle. And like I said, I enjoyed the family life. But then after that, little did I know, once I got into that family, my uncle had an addiction of himself. His addiction was women. He liked to cheat on my aunt. So I remember as a 7 years old, I remember going with my mom or my aunt at the time. We would follow my uncle around a lot. We'd follow him all around town and catch him in the act of cheating on my aunt. And I remember there's a lot of heartaches, a lot of crying within my aunt, with myself. And I always told myself that I would never treat a woman or anybody like that, or even hurt them the way my uncle and my dad did. So fast forward from there, I was really good in sports, man. I was really, really good in sports. Sports was my escape from a lot of things, like that's what kept me going in life, and that's what kept me on the straight and narrow, somewhat, so somewhat sweet. When I was in 9th grade, I ended up, I did really well, in football, of course, and basketball and all those things. And I got a bunch of awards and stuff like that. And then after that, that's when my life started going a little bit downhill. I ended up joining a gang. I joined the gang because that's where I found that brotherhood, the brotherhood that I found here also, but wearing the different hat, right? Like we went around and we did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. Fast forward a little bit more, I ended up catching cases, a few cases here and there. But I was always the type of dude that always ended up, I always had one foot in, one foot out. I always went to church. I had like my scriptures in one pocket, and then I had my blue rag in my other pocket. That's the type of guy I was. I was a very, what's the word? Duplicitous? Is it duplicitous? I was very duplicitous. I was fake as heck, like to my parents or my aunt, uncle, they thought I was, this kid that was really good in sports and was into church. He's going to go on his mission and all those things. But little did they know I was on a different path, a path of a little bit of destruction and things of that sort. My high school years, I was like my first letter when I was a sophomore, my first letter was from Notre Dame. I thought I was like the coolest person ever just because I started receiving all these letters, right? All these Division I schools were writing me, and I remember I had like 3 dresser full of letters of just all different colleges that wanted me to come there and play football. And but the thing is like, so in Texas, I don't know if you guys know anything about Texas. Football is huge in Texas. Also, if you're a football player and if you are the star player, you can basically get away with murder, right? So I got away with a lot of things there. I remember a lot of times where I got in trouble in school where we got caught doing old behaviors, and doing things where I would skip school. I skipped school for like a month or whatever it looks like. And I would always get out of it just because my coach was always the person would pull me out of those situations. Fast forward a little bit more, I made an oral commitment to Texas A&M. Texas A&M is who I was gonna go and play football for. That's who that was like my dream, you know, somewhat, because I always, like I said, football was what carried me through life, and I loved it, you know, I loved it more than a lot of things. Fast forward a little bit more, I ended up, my mom ended up getting me all these little video things and these little test things because I had to take my SATs. I ended up taking my SATs, but the thing was, I never opened any of those videos or any of those packets where I could study and go over the SATs. So then I wouldn't struggle. I ended up going partying all night. And then after that, I ended up showing up to go take my test, hungover and all those things, you know, all old behaviors and stuff like that. So I ended up going and taking my test to qualify to go to any Division I school. You had to have an 820 SAT score with a GPA of a 2.5 when it comes to football players, stuff like that. I made an 810. So, and my GPA was high enough for me to be able to go, but my SAT scores did not meet qualification or whatever you call it, or meet the requirement. So I remember that broke me down. I was just like, golly. And it was too late for me to retake my test. So, and my mom was all heartbroken. I was kind of messed up. And after that, so like my route now was I was gonna try to go to a JUCO, and then after that, go from JUCO to Texas A&M because they still wanted me to go there. A lot of the other schools ended up stirring away just because of the simple fact that I couldn't meet the requirements of being able to go to any of the other schools. So I got advice from my advisor, and then after that, I talked to my mom and my family and all that. And they ended up telling me that I should go a different route. I ended up signing with this other Division II school, Southwest Baptist University out of Missouri. They were a Division II school, but the thing was I would end up going to a university. I wouldn't have to go through that whole route of going through JUCO and then after that going the other way. That was a horrible mistake by me by doing that. Well, there was a lot of mistakes, right? I didn't study for my SATs or I ended up going to school, right? I went to Southwest Baptist University. I went down there. When I got there, football sucked over there, you know, like it was horrible. Like Division II school, the Division II football is a whole different level. It's almost like it's Pop Warner League, you know, somewhat to say. Because like I was like the running back for the team, and I was like bigger than everybody, and I was stronger than everybody. So my ego got really big. I ended up starting over there, but the thing was, we sucked. We got whooped by every team. Every team beat us badly, and so my whole thing was I like to party. So I ended up partying all the time. That was the way I could numb myself and not worry about football and not worry about those things. So partying was a thing. Partying was a huge thing for me. It just helped me escape reality, right? Escape all the problems that I had to face in normal life. My mom ended up leaving. My mom ended up leaving my dad, or my aunt ended up leaving my uncle after the day after I left to college. She told me that she would do that ever since I was a kid. She kept telling me the only reason she stayed with him was just so then I wouldn't lose the family that I was longing for, right? Because she saw that I left, you know, my real mom to go stay with them because, of course, because of the absence of not having a father. So that was her promise to me, was that she would stay with him all the way till then. But I really didn't believe that she would end up leaving him. She ended up leaving him. She moved away. So my little cousin, who was my brother at the time, he was 17 years old. So he was left at home a lot by himself. And he hung out with a lot of my old friends. that or old gang members and stuff like that. So he hung out with them and they taught him a lot of things, right? He ended up catching a few cases. He ended up receiving a 20-year sentence. A 20-year sentence that like, and I remember it broke me down because the simple fact is he was 17 years old. He caught 5 aggravated robberies and he ended up facing a 20-year aggravated sentence, right? In Texas. And I remember it broke me down because the simple fact that I was his role model. I was the person that my little brother was always looked up to. He never done drugs in his life. He was a great athlete also. But the thing is, he wanted to be like me. And I led him in a path that was horrible. He still doesn't do drugs to this day. But the simple fact is, he was, you know, he saw a lot of the things that I've done. And I remember I held that for a long time. I held it so long that whenever he was locked up, I ended up starting getting back into old behaviors. In college, during football and all that, I ended up partying, doing a lot of old behaviors. I started getting caught up in a lot of things. I ended up doing some things to where I had to take off from school. I had to take off from school and I lied to my parents. I told them that I left school because I hurt my knee. You know, I did hurt my knee, but the simple fact is I left school because I was escaping some charges that that happened to me down there. I got caught up in a lot of things down there and you know, the law was looking for me. So I ended up just leaving, just taking off from school. I came home, came back to Texas. I ended up doing a lot more things. I started falling. I started just continuing on with this road. I enjoyed the partying. I just kept doing it. I ended up getting into selling drugs. For me, selling drugs was a huge thing because it replaced that same satisfaction, that same feeling that I got when I was a football player. When I would walk into a room, everybody gave me that respect. Everybody gave me, oh, Iseli's here, you know, and that was the same feeling that I got when I was the dope man. So like which is weird. That's basically how, you know, the reasoning why I did a lot of the things that I did is because it made me feel important. I wasn't important at home, but I was important on the streets. And that was the thing that I enjoyed, right? I enjoyed people respecting me in those ways. That was the old me. Fast forward a little bit, I ended up having a couple kids. I met my ex-wife. When I met her, she was a really good Mormon girl. She was a girl that believed in everything I did. She was a great mom, a great spouse, you know. I molded her into the woman she ended up becoming. And I totally regret that because the simple fact is she was perfect, man. You know, I played the victim a lot with my family. I always told them things that where it always made me look, I always shifted blame, right? Shifted blame on a lot of things that I've done in my past because of her. You know, I ended up getting locked up. I've done a few years, you know, in another place. I used to always justify a lot of my actions because I was institutionalized. I believed I was institutionalized, but in the reality is that was just an excuse. Those were the reasons, you know, and I never really saw it that way until I came here to Red Barn. I was sitting in the jail cell one time, not too long ago, about 19 months ago. And I was, of course, going through another little stint in jail. This time I was facing a lot of years, pretty much my whole life. My whole life. I was facing life in prison, and basically, I remember when I talked with my lawyer, and he told me, hey, you're facing this so-and-so years, and you're facing $47,000 in like restitution and stuff like that. And I remember it was like a kick in the stomach. I was just like, Ali, not the fact that I'm scared to go to prison, right? Because I've done it and it's no thing. But the simple fact is I felt like I let down all the people that I loved, all the people that I cared about. And the funny thing is you never realize those things until you're down and out, right? Till you're sitting in a jail cell. Then after that, you're like, you know, then you're super dad. You're like, oh man, you know, you regret all these things and this and that. So I had another inmate that was in there. He told me about Red Barn. Luis was actually the other inmate. I told him, I was like, what? I was like, he says, why don't you try to write this place called Red Barn, man? And I never heard of Red Barn. I never even thought of a therapeutic community or any kind of program because I'm not about programs. I'm about, you know, like in my mind at the time, I'm a thug. I'm a street, you know, I'm good. I'm good. I'm okay. I can just go back to where I'm okay with what's normal to me. I remember I sat and pondered on it a few times. Luis kept asking me how many times. He says, why don't you just try to write that letter, man? Anyways, I ended up finally doing it, writing a letter. I ended up calling them, talking with Kevin Reel's actually the guy who interviewed me. He came down here, came down to the Utah County and he talked to me and he called me all these names, called me all the things, you know how the whole interview process goes. I really wanted to get up and throw a chair at him because the simple fact he called me a piece of crap dad and this and that. And I was like, you don't even know me, man. But the realization was, you know, did I have that coming? Yeah, I did. Then I ended up getting 5 judges to okay me to be able to come here, 5 prosecutors allowing me to come here and actually try to do something different. In my mind, I was like, okay, I'll give it a chance. So I ended up coming to Red Barn. I was like, in my mind, I was thinking I can jump through the hoops, manipulate my way through. And little did I know, there's none of that. You guys all know. They humbled me really quick. I was out there shoveling alpaca poop and goat poop, and I'm scared of animals, you know? So like, I remember all 3 goats came at me and they jumped at me and I was like, you know, I'm trying to karate them, you know? I was like, man, back off. And then the dogs and all that. Then we had rabbits and I was like, holy crap. I was just like, what's going on here? You know? And I remember whenever I did end up committing and I told my kids that I was coming here and they were like, you hate animals. And I was like, you know, but since I've gotten here, man, I've grown to love them, man. I've grown to appreciate them. And then, you know, because it's the little things that we learn here, right? The things that we learn about helping something that can't help himself, right? It's almost like us, you know, like we couldn't help ourselves. That's why we're here, right? We're here because so we can ask for help. A lot of us, when we first get here, we think that we don't need help. We don't, you know, how is somebody going to tell me what to do because I know better? But the reality of it is you don't know any better because you would end up here at a 2-year life skills academy for men who suck at life, right? My intern phase was okay. It was an okay phase. I remember my first 2 days. Alan Farringer, he was the program director at the time. He screamed at me. He called me all kind of different names. Because I remember I was like, man, if they call me a punk, a B, or a L, you know, I'll let them know. Don't you know I got, you know, after 2 years, you got to see me, man. You know, and like, so for me, coming here, I struggled in the beginning more mentally, right? Because the simple fact is I just had a hard time with the pull-up process. I had a hard time because I didn't have that mindset. My mindset was still stuck in my old mindset is mind your own business. It has nothing to do with you. Don't worry about it, you know, and fly under the radar. And that's what I did for the majority of my intern phase. You know, like I remember I got that first haircut with Alan, and then after that, Logan brought the game to me during games. And there's a few other games that I was just like, holy crap, how how are you gonna talk to me? Do you know who I am? You know what I mean? Like, and that was my thing. I was just like, like, so I ended up just going with it because I don't want to go back to prison for the rest of my life. You know, but the reality of it is every phase of the program got a little bit better, right? They always tell you that. It doesn't get easier, but it does get better. And it is worth it, man. Like I've been here 19 months now, and I'm so appreciative of the things that I've learned, the lessons that I've learned here, because there's always a bigger picture in all that we do. If you change your mindset to always know that and realize that, because a lot of us come in here thinking 2 years, but 2 years, man, like for me, 2 years to unlearn 43 years of, 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 of things that I shouldn't have been doing my whole life, of doing the next right thing. Like it's crazy because 2 years isn't enough. I committed to a third year, man. And because of the simple fact is I appreciate the things that I've learned here, and I believe in the cause. I believe in all that we do. It's crazy for me to say that because I never did for the longest time, is because I was stuck in my prison mentality, my mindset, you know, that jailhouse mentality, because I was like, this is just a snitch program. That was what I thought. This is a snitch program. But you have to change your mindset. You have to understand that when people call you out on your negative behaviors, is they're trying to help you, man. Help you see the things that you don't see. There's a lot of life lessons here, man. And I'm very appreciative of a lot of things that we do here. I'm appreciative of all the older guys before me, especially Mario, huge one for me, because I know him from the streets. So like the simple facts, I remember when I first got here and how cheesy he kept smiling. He was smiling cheesy. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with this dude? That's not the Mario I know. You know what I mean? So like I saw him and I saw W, you know, all these guys that I look up to, man. And I wanted what they have. And the thing is, man, all I want more, I mean, the message that I have really more for all you younger guys is just continue to stay, man. Understand that you guys are worth it and that we do love you guys, because you're going to build a bond here that you'll never get anywhere else. And it's crazy, man. It's so crazy because I never thought in my mind that you could ever have a good time not being high, not, you know, not in a different zone. That's, there's any other questions? Question? Oh.
What's one of your most memorable moments here?
Most memorable moments. So you remember that one time that there's a morning entertainment and you're like the world's strongest Samoan woman, and I came out and I was wearing the wig. I wore a wig a lot. So just so you guys know, it's okay to wear a wig. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of great moments here, man. A lot of great moments. It's crazy to say. For me, the biggest moments that I recognize for me is basically out in the moves, man. When we're out there grinding and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're like about to fall down because you're tired from running the stairs and stuff like that. But you look around at the guys that are still with you, the guys still grinding with you, man, because they want to change their life just the way you want to change your life. So those are a big one for me. You know, there's a bunch of other ones, but those are the ones that stand out the most is the moves. And then also like with the interns, man, I'm forever grateful that I became an intern manager at this. I'm glad I experienced that because it made my program. It made me look at things in a whole different way. And I remember for the longest time, I was just like, I didn't believe in a lot of the things, like, but just seeing, because we all have the same end goal, and it made me feel good. It's about balancing the scales, right? Regardless of a lot of times, because we think that we come here and that we're slaves, that we're sitting here, we got to do this, we got to do that, we're not getting paid. But the thing is, you are getting paid, man. You're getting paid. You're here taking care of your house, taking care of the place that's giving you another chance, that's keeping you off the streets, that's allowing you not to be locked up. Like, you guys got to remember, man, like, it might be 2 years, but the thing is, at least you're moving forward and doing something different in your life. You're going to be set up for success, man. Like, my biggest thing is I hope you guys just continue to stay because you are loved, man. Any other questions? Good. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Iseli. That was a great story. It's good to get to know you a little bit better. Can we just give another round of applause for Jason and Iseli? And that's Task.